Hello, one and all. Hello, all of the therapy nerds out there, all of the self-growth seekers, and all of the therapists and the counselors who want to be not just good, but to be great at their craft. And I know that is most of you. I would say probably all of you out there really strive to be great. So welcome. I am sorry I was a minute or two late. I actually just ended the Instagram live that I do at 7:30, and I ended it a teeny bit late. So I apologize about that. I also welcome everybody here. Please feel free to put your name in the comments as you onboard today. And welcome to Therapist Skills Training with Beth Miller. This is our second live episode. Thank you, Patsy. Welcome. This is where we promise to teach you everything that you wish you learned in graduate school and beyond. And it's also where we're really creating a non-judgmental space for therapists and for counselors who can learn and practice together to be the best therapist that we can be, and where it is safe to not know everything, because we have to have spaces like that so we really truly learn and be vulnerable with each other and be able to continue training. So tonight's topic is is a little tongue-in-cheek, but I do believe it's true, which is therapists who ask boring questions will have boring sessions. And so the tagline is how to ask the right questions in session to create inspiring transformational results for your clients. I'm Beth Miller. I'm the licensed clinical social worker. I'm a certified life coach, an energy healer, and a spiritual counselor. I'm the owner of Positive Energy Holistic Counseling and Institute. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Kelly. Hello, Patsy. And I'm also, hey Meg, I am a creator of the trademark model Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching that combines the best tools of traditional psychotherapy with life coaching, energy healing, science, and spirituality. I've been a therapist for over 25 years. I've been in the healing field for over 30. And so that's a little bit about what I'm bringing to the table. And I look forward to learning from you guys about what you guys are also bringing to the table. So these live Instagram and Facebook events are really a newer feature of our Holistic Counseling Institute. The goal of the lives is to provide free, zero-cost, real information to help every therapist, whether you're new or a veteran. Hey, Cindy, nice to see you. To be their absolute best by providing practical clinical skills that you can incorporate into your work immediately. We're going to be live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on Instagram, 8 o'clock on Facebook. And remember, this is a collaboration. So I'm going to ask all of you guys a lot of questions as we go along the way, because you are going to help me shape some of the curriculum so that I can make sure that I'm giving you what you want and really what you need. And before we get into the material, I'm going to ask you to share this with one person right now. Text a friend or just share it with somebody and say, hey, we're live right now, jump in. This is, it's free information that's just aimed to help. And also hi Cindy, here's a friendly reminder, which is to get your notebooks out, because we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and also giving a practice assignment at the end. So there was a fun post, and fun is that's like therapy nerd speak. Fun post on, I think it was Instagram the other day, that was on like a therapy page. And if this ever feels like you are in the right place, it said, can you please do a post about how some weeks being a therapist feels great, and then other weeks you feel like crying? LOL, I need inspiration. So that sounds like you ever, then welcome to the club. Everybody feels like that sometimes. And the good news is that the more clinical skills you have, very often your desire to cry decreases. So that's something to look forward to. So let's first review the practice assignment that I gave everybody last week. And just as a reminder, I do give a practice assignment every week so that you can take what we learn and turn it into intelligence by practicing and integrating it, versus keeping it just as data and information that never really does much for your clinical skills. It is through the practice and integration of material that actually levels up your clinical skills, and that's what I think we all may need a little bit more of. So last week's assignment was I asked you to keep a running list of all of the times in session where you didn't know what to do next, you didn't know how to meet the client's needs, you felt like an imposter, you were stumped in session, you were overwhelmed, you were triggered, your session went flat, you didn't know what to do next, your sessions that you had when you reflected on them afterwards, you felt regret, or you experienced countertransference. And that's just like some of the things that could have happened in your session that you might have noticed. And I asked you to keep a running list of those things because these are the exact issues that you may need more clinical skill development in, because the challenges that come up for you in session are just flags. You don't know it all. You can't know it all. That's okay. Welcome to the club. We're all learning and growing. It will be a lifelong experience. But the things that are popping up for you in your sessions now are your indicators of where you want to grow your clinical skills, okay? So for those of you who did do the assignment, the practice assignment, feel free to put it in the comments. What are some of the things that you noticed over the course of the week that were sort of these like, oh yeah, here's where I'm getting stumped, or here's where I'm having a hard time, throw it in there. I also did get emails from some people, or they put these in the comments. And if you want to email me any feedback from the assignments, instead of putting them in the comments, you can send it to institute@positivecounselingli.com. I welcome it because honestly, I will shape the material based on what you need. I really mean that. So I did get a couple of comments from people through email. Let me read those to you while you guys throw your own comments in there in the chat here. So one person said, my session started to wander and I didn't know how to bring it back. It was unfocused and I felt like the client and I just started talking like we were acquaintances on the grocery line or something. It definitely wasn't really therapy. I'm not even sure what the point of our session was. I'm sure they won't be back. Okay, so thank you for that comment. And I don't have to read your names if you guys don't want me to, so that's fine. Another one said, hi Beth, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I really didn't know how to handle a client issue this week. My client shared about a huge life event that happened since our last session. The sudden death of someone very close to her. And honestly, I didn't know what to say other than to just hold a safe container while she cried. I am sure I could have done more. Okay, that was really helpful and like makes complete sense. We've all been there. What do you say when there's nothing to say, right? And here's another one. Hey Beth, there are so many things that happen in my sessions that could be improved, I'm sure, but the worst this week was when my client revealed about an early childhood trauma. I haven't really worked with something like that, and I think I froze a little. I asked a few questions. I thanked her for telling me, but I really felt like I didn't know how I was supposed to help her next. I think I was stunned, and I was also kind of afraid of saying the wrong thing. Thank you for that comment. Yes, everybody has probably experienced something like that too. So these are excellent examples of moments in session where we're like, I don't know. I don't have the skill for this, or I don't know what to do, or I'm not sure how to handle it. And what we're going to talk about tonight should absolutely help. But also, I will design some of our future curriculum around things like trauma, grief, and focusing sessions so that you can have some practical things that can help you with exactly these issues. So tonight's training topic is therapists who ask boring questions have boring sessions. That is meant to be a little funny, but it's also true. There are sessions that are boring, and there are therapists that are more boring than others, and there are sessions that are more mediocre than others. And one of them might be because of the questions that we ask, believe it or not. So how to ask the right questions in session to create inspiring, transformative results. So I would say that the number one skill that I have seen greatly increase a therapist's clinical effectiveness is actually the questions that they ask. the number one skill that I have seen greatly increase the therapist's clinical effectiveness is actually about question asking. In all of the training I've done with therapists, whether it's in my group practice or whether it's in the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching certification, I have seen that if you help therapists or counselors improve their question asking, that it immediately changes the therapist sessions with clients. So when supervising therapists in my group practice at Positive Energy Holistic Counseling and Institute, one thing that I would notice is like when we would do role plays or group supervision where we would be working on a case together, is there would be sort of not enough question asking. And I became really curious about that. What's happening there, that we're not asking some of these things. And I discovered by asking therapists, what's causing you not to ask this or not ask that? There were a bunch of reasons. One is that the therapist may have never considered asking other questions or more questions. Another was that therapists sometimes worry about being intrusive or asking maybe the wrong thing. Therapists feel uncomfortable about that topic or about how they would navigate sensitive questions. And therapists may not know the value of knowing more. Sometimes I've had therapists say, well, why would I ask those things? Like what's to be gained through that? And also therapists may not always know like what to do with the answers they get, right? So, and I would say the number one culprit of why therapists are not asking more questions or they're under asking is because they haven't been trained to do it. I'm sort of kind of amazed. You might be too. You might be thinking this also. There's two foundational things that we're doing all the time as therapists. And one of them is actively listening with full presence. And the other is asking questions. And I don't know that people get a lot of training about asking questions when you really reflect on some of the background of training that you've had so far, including in graduate school. So it may be worth spending some time on. In my 9-month certification in Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching, I also train people there in how to ask vibrant, dynamic, inspiring set of questions, which then therefore helps the sessions be vibrant, dynamic, and creates more breakthroughs. And then that also in turn is very encouraging to the client because they really feel like they're making progress. And if you're interested in that certification, you can either go to my website and follow the links for there, or you could send me an email at institute@positivecounselingli.com. The time to apply is right now. It actually starts in January, so that would be right now. Okay, so I would venture to say that a significant amount of the quality and content of your sessions is highly dependent upon what questions you ask, how you ask them, and why you're asking them. A significant amount of the quality and the content of your sessions is dependent on what questions you're asking, how you ask them, and why. And here's the reasons why I would say that. One is that the questions that you're asking are determining the actual direction of the session very often. Now, this doesn't mean that you're always determining the direction of the session. Obviously, your client is a significant co-creator in the session, and we'll talk about the co-creation of sessions at another time. Your client is the center of your sessions. But I want you to even think about like just the very beginning of a session with a client, how the question that you ask in the beginning directs so much of what's about to happen next. So here's some examples. Let's say you come in and I say, hey Jen, how are you today? Jen's going to respond there, right? How am I today? She's going to respond from that question. But what if I say, hey Jen, how have you been since I saw you last? That's a different question. And these are just like session starters. This is nothing, but that is going to direct the session differently. What if I said, Hey Jen, so tell me how you did with the assignment that we gave you last week. And that's how I started with the client. Well, then the client is going to be reporting on that assignment and maybe talking about the progress they made or the progress they didn't make, and that's where we're going to be. Or what if I started the session with, hey Jen, why don't we go over your wins from last week, and then we'll also talk about some of the challenges that you had. Right there, we can see that that's going to get a very different answer than, hey Jen, how are you today? Right? So we can see that even just the most benign beginning questions actually have a lot of power in directing what happens, which is why we need to be very intentional about what we ask. And we're going to get to intentionality in a little while. The second reason why your questions, why it makes sense to really pay attention to the questions we're asking is because the questions you ask determine the depth of your sessions. So the questions you ask are going to influence whether you are staying on the surface with the client or whether it enables you to dive deeper into the issues or the goals that your client has. The more that you understand and get under the surface of an issue or a goal or a desire, the more likely that your client will gain insight, make changes, transform, and actually feel like therapy is working. So the depth of the sessions, whether we're going to stay here or whether we're going to go here, even if going here means like really understanding their desires and why they're important to them, that is going to be based on the questions that you ask. And lastly, the questions that you ask enables you to truly understand your client and their experiences. One, it eliminates assumptions. If you ask a lot of questions, then you won't accidentally be causing yourself to bypass information that you really need, because assumptions cause us to bypass information that would be really helpful. And two, asking the right questions makes you a curious investigator, a researcher who is determined to thoroughly get the person in front of you and understand the nature of their beliefs, their patterns, their thought processes, their behaviors, their desires, their goals, their barriers, their experiences. And if we don't ask a lot of questions, we're not going to get that. We're not going to really get that. So therefore, the questions that we ask direct sessions, determines the depth of the sessions, and enables you to understand the client thoroughly. So we can see how valuable it is to learn how to do this better and better and better and really develop the art of question asking. Because this is going to be the difference between holding boring, predictable, flat, mediocre, meh, or just okay sessions versus holding sessions that are interesting, inspiring, active, dynamic, effective, transformative, efficient, and co-created. So the art of question asking for therapists. What does it look like? Where do we even start? Step one is to do what I call look under the hood. Okay, this is my expression for it. You can use your own expression for it. You must look under the hood. And this is what I meant by when I would be training people in group supervision and I would say, oh, well, what about this? And what about this? And I want to know this. I want to know that. And the therapist may have not felt permission to look under the hood, or maybe they never thought of looking under the hood. So I am opening up the space to say, if you don't look under the hood, let's do it. Let's look under the hood and figure out what that really means. So looking under the hood means being an insanely curious person who is laser focused on the person in front of you and wants to truly understand their experience, understand whatever it is that they're talking about. Tell the client that you want to ask more questions so that you can truly understand what they're saying. Sometimes I say to clients, and I'll talk to you about this when we talk about assumptions, I'll say, pretend I live like on another planet and that I don't understand anything about what you just said. Give me more information. Help me understand what that really means to you. And then they'll be like, okay. And now they're going to give me even more richness so that I can hear how they think, how they feel, what their beliefs are, what their patterns are. There's a lot of information in there. be guided by what I like to call natural curiosity. This is like, what do you want to know more about? What naturally pops up for you that you want, that you're curious about? Because that naturally could be what you ask next. Now, we want to measure natural curiosity with intentionality, and that's going to be one of the steps coming soon. So we'll see how those two work together, but we'll get there together. See the things that they present as puzzles, as mysteries, as things to discover. Get inside them more and understand them more by asking more questions, right? Not just assuming that you understand how that thing works for them. And slow down the process. So sometimes I'll say to clients, you told me that was an amazing story, so much information. Thank you for sharing that with me. Can we go back? I want to slow down this one part. I want to understand this part that happened more. Let's slow it down and kind of go step by step so I can really hear what happened right in that part, right? We slow it down. We get inside that a little bit more. And then another little fun little technique that you can use is to use what I call zooming in on the process, right? I tell clients, so let's just zoom in on that. So there's all this information. Let's zoom in on this one part. And I want to understand more about that. So let's zoom in on that part for a little bit. And clients are I think, intrigued also about understanding what we're slowing down or we're zooming in on. And all of this to say, step one, just looking under the hood, getting super curious, is meant to be an addition to what otherwise has been the one-trick pony that most therapists use repeatedly. Anybody want to put in the chat what the one-trick pony is that most therapists were either taught to use or use repeatedly as their default question? Anybody want to throw that in? Hi, Jen. Anybody want to throw that in? I bet all of you know what this question is. The one-trick pony that therapists often use over and over again when they could be asking a lot of other questions. Okay, I'll give it up to you. I feel like you guys all know it, though. The question is, how does that make you feel? Okay. It's an important question. Thank you. How do you feel about that? Thank you, Meg. Meg got it. Ding, ding, ding. This is not a bad question. How does that make you feel? How do you feel about that? It's a great question. But if that is, thank you, thanks Tiffany. If that is what we keep showing up to our sessions with, is mostly that, and not a big, broad, dynamic, curious way of asking questions, and we're going to get to some of the other pieces of what will build those questions, then we're doing our sessions and ourselves a big injustice. Because the sessions are going to be a little bit more flat. They're not going to be as curious. They're not going to be as transformative. It's an important question, but it can't be the only thing that we do. And so I want to really open up the space. And some of you might be like, Beth, I already asked a billion questions. What are you talking about? You're repeating what I already know. And that's wonderful. And also, if you are somebody who is asking a lot broader questions, fabulous. Let's build on that and learn how to ask even more fabulous questions, okay? So this is why I say boring questions create boring sessions, right? Because if we're not looking under the hood, we're not going to have sessions that have as much richness as they possibly could, which means not as much transformation for the clients. So because this curriculum is a little bit bigger, we're going to separate it into 2 live sessions. So next week, we're going to talk about step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5. But the practice assignment that I'm going to give you for this week is to really notice your sessions. And notice, take stock on yourself. Research you, notice you in a non-judgmental way. And be like, am I asking as many questions as I could ask? Could I get under the hood about this more? Do I fully understand what this client is saying? Am I sure that I really completely understand this? What questions could I ask in order to be able to bring even more light and presence to this? And one of the indications that you will get that you are asking questions that are outside of the box of where the client currently is, one of the things you want to hear, and you're going to be looking for this week, you want to hear this multiple times a week to know that you're asking questions that are not just boring, but are more dynamic, more inquisitive. You want to hear your clients say, I don't know. That's a good question. Let me think about that for a minute. Yeah, you ask great questions. If you hear your client do that, or they look up to the left, they look up to the right, the basis behind where we learned that EMDR works, they're looking for information in their mind, in their brain. If you hear that, you know you're asking out of the box, dynamic, transformative questions. You're doing it. But if you're not hearing that much, then that means we have a lot of new tools to add in, and we're going to be doing it this week. We're going to do it next week. So I truly appreciate you being here. Please feel free to send me an email at institute@positivecounselingli.com. If you want to send me any feedback about this particular session or any questions about it that I can sort of feather into the work that we're doing so I can keep designing the curriculum around you guys. And if you're interested in learning more about the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching Certification, as I mentioned, the time to apply is now. And otherwise, I wish you guys a wonderful week of doing amazing therapy, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take good care. Bye.